A friend of mine, Chris, not this Chris,
That's
another
it. That's
Chris,
the
loaned me his Durston X Mid 1 person. So I'll be using this sometime over the next few months myself. But I brought it for Chris to have a look at and have his thoughts and views and opinions on it. Fire away.
It's the big thing about it, I think, is very light, because for its 2-skin tent you've got an inner as well, so it's very light. The inner is quite roomy. It's got 2 porches, and whilst they're long, because like here they go along the length of the tent rather than across, they're not very deep. And I found when we had the really windy and really wet weather, cooking safely in the porch required great care, and you had to position the stove and be ready to turn it off at any minute. It was, which you don't here. You can see you've got huge depth between there and there.
Yeah.
For cooking, and it's partly the depth. It's also the angle of the walls, which on the Durston come down, which means that the wall is not far above where you position the stove. I'd rather have one big porch than 2 smaller porches, but I can see with the offset asymmetrical 2-pole design of the Durston, you couldn't do that. Yeah. I tried to figure it out, and I couldn't work out how you would end up with just one porch. Of course, you could make one of the 2 porches bigger, but then you've added to the weight. It's reasonably easy to pitch once you get the hang of it, and like any shelter, you practice, you pitch it a few times, it becomes a lot easier. So it's not bad. I've only used it 2 nights use. Pitched it once because we stayed in the same place for 2 nights. It wouldn't be my first choice, mainly because of the porches. There's a few niggly little things. When you open the door fully and it's soaked in condensation inside and rain outside, which it was the first morning, it drips onto the inner. It would be useful to be able to only part open the door, but that's a minor thing, and there's a few other minor things about it, but overall, yeah, it's a good ultralight tent, but it's not my favourite design. I prefer a single pole tent.
A bigger porch.
A bigger porch.
Yeah.
I haven't done, because I haven't brought the inner with this, so I don't know how much this with the inner, I've got an inner for it, compares in weight with the Durston. I suspect the Durston might be slightly
maybe a bit
lighter, but I don't know. I'd have to wait and see. But what you have got
when you get home, weigh this. I've got the inner.
Well, I've got the inner for this as well.
Yeah, so we can weigh them and then let me know.
But one of the things with the Durston is, because there's 2 poles and you've got a ridge, you've obviously got headroom along the length between the 2 poles, whereas something like this, there's the headroom, and then it slopes away always from it.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's not as high as this. I mean, the one good thing I suppose with the Durston is I pitched it with the pacer poles. It's not a problem because it's not that high.
It's not too high.
But you do get more headroom over a slightly wider area of the inner, which, if you're tall, might be welcome over this. But then again, it's not as high as this.
Right.
So,
okay. And how would you compare something like the Enan or something like that to the Durston?
Well, if I wanted a 2-skin tent designed to be used 2 skins all the time, I would prefer the Enan, but allowing that the Enan is a lot heavier. So it's a balance. I mean, how much did you say this weighs?
It's about 850 to 900 grams.
Yeah, and the Enon is 1100 grams.
Yeah, so
well, you know, if you're going, you know, for most people that's insignificant, but if you're going ultra light, and it's quite likely anyone who goes for the Durston is going ultra light, then 250 grams is a big difference in weight.
Right, yeah.
You know, I would say, well, I'd rather have the Enon and have the extra weight, because the Enon's got a big porch.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing with the Enon.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's very easy to pitch, and of course it's Hilleberg quality and Hilleberg prices, but it has got a huge porch.
Right, okay. Is there anything else in a similar class to the Durston X Mid one? Because everyone raves about it.
I don't know.
Is there anything else that other people could look at?
I don't know anything else anywhere near this weight. I think there are a few other designs with the two offset poles like that. One of them is the Sierra Designs one, which I think is called High Trails or something, which I've tested, and it's made, if you like, of conventional weight fabrics, so it's a lot heavier than the Durston.
Mm-hmm.
But the basic design is the same. You've got the two poles offset, you've got a long ridge,
right,
you've got
okay.
two small porches that I think aren't big enough. And what I found with the Sierra Designs, which I'd probably find with the Durston, I haven't tried, is I didn't like the Sierra Designs because of the small porches when I used the inner. When I took it out with just the ground sheet, of course I could move the ground sheet around and I could have bigger porches.
Yeah.
So I felt it worked better as a single skin tent and forget the inner. And I suspect I'd think the same with this, you know, that if I used it without the inner, I'd think, well, that's fine. But of course, like the Sierra Designs, this is designed to be a unit, to be a tent. It's not like this, where the inner is an optional extra, if you want it.
Yeah.
You know, this is designed to be a pyramid shelter, and what you use inside it, ground sheet, inner, whatever, is up to you. It's not a complete tent.
Right, okay, yeah.
Which means, of course, that even if you're thinking, well, I'll never use the inner, but as far as I know, you can't therefore not buy it.
Things that you can buy it separately.
You know, I mean, this is a problem with some others' tents. I mean, if you go for another favourite that you saw earlier in the year when we went to Neudat, which is the Wiki Up 3 tent from Bach, as it is now, you know, which is another pyramid tent. It's big, a lot bigger than this, and a fair bit heavier.
Mm-hmm.
I think with just the ground sheet it's 1400 grams or something. But the trouble with the Wiki Up 3 is you can only buy it with a full size inner that fills the whole of it. There's not even a porch.
Right.
You know, and it would sleep 3 like that, but you wouldn't have any gear inside. You can't just buy the fly sheet. You can buy as an optional extra a half inner, which is what I had in Neudat, which hangs at the back behind the pole. But again, it doesn't, because the pole's in the centre, it actually has less room than the inner of this one does.
Right,
and you can't vary where it goes because it's purpose designed and it clips onto the fly sheet.
Yeah.
So again, the Wiki Up 3 is great as long as you don't use an inner with it, just a ground sheet.
Right, okay.
But you can't buy it.
So you have to get that extra.
Inner. Yeah, you're not only have to buy the full size inner, you then have to buy the half inner if you want it. But I would say, well, you know, it's great, but buy it, put the full size inner in storage and get ground sheet.
Right,
you know.
okay, yeah.
I mean, the only time I use the half inner with it, as when we went to Neudat, is if I think there might be midges, when obviously I want an inner that you can close.
Yeah. And obviously, how does the X Mid compare to your favourite, the Trailstar, of course?
Well, again, it's completely different, isn't it? Because the Trail Star is basically a shaped tarp, and this is a tent.
Yeah.
So there, this is where preferences come in. As you know, some people don't like the idea of not having an inner tent, in which case you're not going to like the Trail Star, unless you buy an inner for it, which you can get, and turn it into a sort of tent. But also some people don't like the idea of not having a door.
Right, yes.
The Trail Star does not have a door, but the Trail Star is vastly more versatile because there's no set height, there's no set shape.
Right,
I mean, people tend to usually pitch it in this sort of shape, as a pyramid, but you don't have to. You can use 2 trekking poles and pitch it with 3 sides as an awning with 1 completely open side.
Right, yeah.
But the other thing is, of course, you can just lower the pole. If it gets really windy, you lower the pole, and as I have done, you can adjust all the outside pegging points from inside.
Right,
and just move them further out. And because it's so roomy inside, it's still fine for wood. It's not like suddenly you've got all the fabric pressing on you.
Right, okay.
And of course, the Trail Star is very light.
Yeah.
And the Trail Stars, I mean, I've had that up in some windy weather, nothing extreme, as you know.
Yeah.
I'd say the Trail Star is more stable than this, but it's more stable than this.
Yeah.
It's one of the most stable shelters in that weight range I've ever used. So,
yeah. And if you were buying something new other than the Trail Star, and I shouldn't be putting you on the spot, would you go for the Solo Mid XL or the Durston?
Oh, the Solo Mid. Definitely.
Mainly because of space and everything.
Mainly because of the ports of space. I like, and as you've gathered, I like the pyramid design.
Yes.
I find it works well. It's weatherproof. It's reasonably wind resistant.
Yeah.
No, I'd go for this.
Yeah.
But again, if someone preferred the Durston and liked the weight, it's still a good tent.
Yes.
I'm not, I wouldn't say, oh no, it's really bad design, don't buy it. There are some things on the market which I really wonder why anyone designed them the way they are. But with this, say, bigger porches, a slightly different door arrangement, there's always improvements that could be made.
Yes.
I mean, it would be nice if this could be pitched properly with pacer poles.
Right,
which it can't.
Yeah.
I mean, as you noted yesterday, the handle of the pacer pole distorts the top of the door.
Yes.
And there's no way around that because it's designed for a straight handle.
Yeah.
Or a straight pole.
The only way that you could do it, bearing in mind the height still isn't any good anyway because the pacer poles aren't long enough. The only way you could do it is if you put a bung on the end of the pacer pole
and turn it the other way up,
and then the other way up.
Yeah.
That's
you could do that.
Right. And then that would.
Yeah. Well, say this pitch is fine with pacer poles, so it's got that.
Yes.
The only other thing with this, which applies with this as well, is it would be nice to have a 2-way zip on the door, so that you can open the top of the door and look out to see what the weather's doing, or to let hot air out, for breathability.
Yeah.
But when it's like you can't. You can only open the door from the bottom, and then you've immediately got a piece of material flapping in the wind.
Yes.
Which is fine if you're tying it back like this, but if it's raining and you merely want to see what's happening outside, it's not. So a minor thing, but it would be, it'd be nice to have a.
Is there anything else that we haven't mentioned? What
Probably.
Probably camera bag. So you have a different.
Oh,
you have a different camera bag.
I have finally, after many years, conceded that my old cameras were beginning to fail, basically. You know, I mean, the batteries were now, I was lucky if I got 100 shots out of a battery. It used to be 250 when they were new. So I thought, well, I'll need to replace the batteries. But then the cameras, one of them, bits of the outside have fallen off, and the screen, you can only see part of it, some of it's gone dark. And the other one, the controls have gone crazy, in that it would alter settings without me touching it. You'd switch it on again and go to take a picture and think, why does it say ISO 25,000? You know, I can't use that, and so on. You know, or why is the shutter speed now 5 seconds? I can't use that, and so it was beginning to drive me crazy. And the newer, this is all in the Sony, one of these is the NEX7, so that tells you how far back that's going. And the other is the A6000, which was the next one after the NEX7. And given that since then there's been A6 all right up to the A6700, not quite that many, because for some bizarre reason they never made an A6200.
Oh right.
I don't know why, but they didn't. So, but given that the A6100 came after the A6300, I don't know why that either. They might jump to an A62, who knows? But anyway, but they've got bigger batteries. So I thought, well, maybe I should replace the camera and get one with a bigger battery that will last longer, rather than buying new batteries, which are not cheap, for the old cameras, which are going to pack in completely soon anyway, and then the batteries won't fit the new cameras. So I thought, no, get a new camera. And so far, I mean, on this trip, last time I looked, despite the weather, I've still managed to take about 114 photos.
Right, that's very good.
And I've used, I think, 83% of the battery.
Right.
Which is fantastic.
83% left.
Left of the battery, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know. So yeah, I'm getting vastly more than even the older batteries. And although the battery's bigger, it only weighs something like, it's not double the weight. It's 70% of the weight of the smaller battery.
Right.
So it's not, you know, which probably covers, the one thing is the camera is slightly heavier. But for this trip, I wanted to experiment with something, and I don't know if I'll continue doing it. If I'm only bringing one camera and changing lenses, I've learned anyway that lenses that sit in the pack tend only to be used when I'm in camp.
Right.
Because it'll be, it'd be nice to have a wider angle on this, and then it'd be, but I can't be bothered taking my pack off and getting the lens out, and I haven't got it to hand. You know, a case that had them all, and this is the Billingham digital case, which I bought second hand because they're expensive, and this is the camera, and at the moment it's got, this is a wide angle lens, 10 to 20, because I was taking shots out of the door and over there of the trees, and wanted to, you know, the wide angle. But the lens that I've used most on this trip, but which fits there, is this one, which is an 18 to 50.
Right.
So wide angle to moderate telephoto, you know. So that's the general purpose one.
Yeah.
But there's only an overlap.
And is that the 2.8?
That's 2.8.
Right.
The wide angle one's f4.
Right. Okay.
But I've also got, which I've never used because it was for night photography, and every night has been stormy, either wind. The only night it's been clear, it's been incredibly windy.
Right.
But this is a 11mm, so another wide angle, 1.8.
Right.
And that's for low light night photography when I want something wider than 18, and where f4 isn't fast enough.
Yeah.
So I had a Samyang f12mm f2, which I'd had for years, and the thing with that is it's fully manual lens. It does not give you any information
Right.
whatsoever
Okay.
to the camera, so the camera doesn't record anything from it.
Right. Yeah.
Which doesn't matter, you know. That, I mean, it's interesting to know those settings, but
yeah.
you know, you don't need them as long as it takes the photo properly.
Yeah.
But
So were you using?
I've been using for processing this last year DxO Photo Labs.
Right.
I think they're on version 7 now, and it really is, in terms of getting the best out of old images or noisy images, it's superb.
Right.
It's better than
okay.
anything else I've used. But of course it won't read this. And what DxO have is a database of all the lenses, all the cameras, everything, all the thing. So when they process a photo, it looks at what camera was it taken on,
Right.
what lens was it taken on,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it will process it for.
Right.
So it's
okay.
very precise. It's not general, but it can't do it with the Samyang because there's no information
Right,
provided
yes, yeah.
on the image,
Yeah.
which is annoying because I've got staff photos that are a bit noisy, and I know if DxO could handle them, they'd look a lot better. So I thought, no, I want a lens that will work with the camera.
Yeah. And how did you find the bag?
You know, the bag has been fine. I haven't, you know, I carried it as usual,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
as a
you
sling.
Yeah.
I haven't really noticed it. I think when I weighed it home with the stuff in, it's 1.8
Right. Okay.
kilos,
And you don't
but
find
it's
that
been
too
fine.
heavy on your
No,
shoulders or
I haven't
anything?
noticed it. It's been fine, and it's certainly, you know, it's padded. It's also waterproof. As you know, we've been out in some torrential
yeah,
rain
it's
and
been-
heavy rain,
And it's
and
kept it dry and
it's been
everything.
fine.
Yeah,
so
as it's been. I think we can
you
say
know,
it's a test to its waterproofness.
it's, you know,
That is for
so-
sure.
I mean, I think I would still, on a long walk, you know, a multi-day walk where I definitely wanted to know I'd got, you know, plenty of images at the end, I think I would still end up taking 2 cameras,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
and I'd have a standard zoom lens on one, the wide-angle zoom on the other, both of them here, which is how I've carried cameras on long walks, you know,
Yeah.
for decades.
Yeah.
With the 2 advantages, you don't have to change lenses. You just look at, you know, I can think, oh, I want the wide-angle lens for this,
Yeah.
so it's this camera. I want the zoom, you know, the medium telephoto for this shot, so it's this camera, which is obviously makes it quicker and easier to do.
Yeah.
You're not having to think, do I want to stop and change the lenses over? But also, if you're never or virtually never changing lenses, then you're not going to get any dust or dirt on the sensor,
Right. Okay,
which is
yeah.
always the risk when you're changing lenses a lot. So I'd still do that, and you know, the original reason I started taking 2 cameras, which was in film days, was in case I broke one.
Right. Yeah. So
Then
you
I'd
had a
still, you know,
backup.
I've got a backup. I've got 2 cameras. One of them should survive to the end.
Yeah.
And there were, I mean, particularly, everyone talks about how durable and tough film cameras are compared with digital. My experience is the opposite.
Right. Okay.
You know, I had a lot of failures with film cameras, so it was good that I was taking 2. There were a
Yeah.
few walks where I set off with 2 cameras and finished with
Finish
one.
off with one.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else have you got that we haven't
Well,
discussed?
anymore. Oh. Well, nothing major, I don't
I think we've covered
I mean, obviously, there's all the usual
usual
things
bits
like,
and bobs.
you know, headlamp and
Yeah.
weather meter and
So
you know,
what trousers did
so
you
on.
wear this time?
Oh,
Is
well,
that
these-
different to last
yeah,
time?
these are a test pair. These are, it says First Ascent on there, but the brand is Eddie Bauer,
Oh, right. Okay.
who had just come to the UK. Now, in the States, Eddie Bauer has been a big name in outdoor gear since the 1920s.
Oh, right.
You know, they're
okay.
huge. In the eastern US
Yeah.
is where they're based. And they've had, you know, a chain of shops as well, selling lots of stuff. quality stuff, but also because they've got chain shops, an awful lot of general outdoor wear rather than backpacking or mountain clothing, but they do that as well. But in the last few years, they've thought, maybe we'll see what this European market's like.
Yeah.
And at the annual trade show last June, they had a stand. I went along to see them because I'd heard of them, you know, and they had their history there. Because generally, if you've not been to North America and done stuff over there, they're not a name you'd heard of. They're an American brand who's never been here, so, you know. And they had some quite nice stuff. They had some nice down jackets. I think their original garment, made by the actual real Eddie Bauer, was a down jacket.
Right.
And they've just done a replica of that, you know, as it was. But these are stretch nylon trail pants.
Have you found them okay, comfortable?
Yeah, they've been fine. They've been wet, they dry quickly.
Yeah.
They've been warm enough. They're probably ideal for this time of year. I imagine, I haven't had them long, on a hot summer's day, they're probably too hot because they're not, you know, I've got thinner ones than this for summer. In midwinter, they're not winter mountain trousers. You'd either want, you know, long underwear under them, or you'd be wearing over trousers. But on their own, once it gets much below freezing, if it's windy, they're probably. But as general, you know, hill walking trousers, trekking trousers, they're fine. They've got lots of pockets. You know, there's plenty other similar trousers on the market, but these are just as good as the others. You know, there's no real significant difference. Pick the one that fits and has got pockets
where you want them,
that you think you'll use.
Do you ever find that some? Because one thing I've noticed with some of my outdoor trousers is that some pockets are very, very shallow. Some they put a sensible pocket on that's deep enough that stuff doesn't fall out. But I have noticed that some pockets are very, very shallow. Yeah, that's a good size. Yeah, that's
a reasonable size. Yeah.
That's a sensible size.
And there are each side there's a side, you know, a reasonable size pocket there. And unusually, because most don't, it's got pockets that close with Velcro with two back pockets, which very few, most outdoor trousers, they don't bother with back pockets.
Right, yeah.
Which are more used in town than, you know, because if you're carrying a pack, you're not going to put anything in a pocket on your backside. But, so it's got plenty of pockets. But yeah, I've noticed some have got shallow pockets.
Yeah.
And some as well, if you want real security, are the ones that have got zipped pockets.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I think we've covered everything this time.
I think we probably have.
Yeah, I think so. Well,
I think that camera stopped working anyway.
Well, it might still be flashing red. It's just the cover on it. So.
Oh, right.
Oh no! Actually, it probably has.
There's no picture.
There's nothing on the front. No, it probably has.
But also, it's starting to get dark.
Yes. So.
And I felt just the odd
spot
of rain, which is supposed to be coming in this evening.
Yeah, there's a few spots of rain. So, and it's about 20 minutes. My watch does beep for half an hour for sunset. So.
Yeah.
Sunset probably is fairly soon now. So we're gonna settle in now. Chris has got his Solar Mid XL, and then I've got the Cricket over there. So thank very much, Chris, for his time taking us through.
You're welcome.
Equipment and everything, and hopefully we'll do this again sometime in the not too distant future, sometime or other, somewhere or other.
Oh yeah, and certainly let's hope on the next trip we get better weather.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a nice, peaceful camp here, even though it's supposed to rain all night. But it's the only sort of really comfortable camp we've had out of 4. So
it's
not good going when 3 camps out of 4
have not
are
been
not, are not that good.
No,
you know.
no, it has been a bit more of a challenging trip.
Yeah,
I even had a
really.
frog. Did you see the frog on my tent on the cricket?
Yes,
last night?
yeah.
I even have a frog on the cricket. I didn't get the camera right quick enough, but even had a frog on the cricket last night. Anyway, thank you very much, Chris. Thank you all very much for watching.
As I say, you're welcome, and tomorrow we'll be wearing the waterproofs again, I think, as we walk out in the rain.
Testing waterproof time tomorrow. All right, well, thanks very much for watching, everybody.
Yeah, my shoes are just about dry
They're dry
for the
now.
first time since the first day, and of course they're going to get soaked again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
There you go, that's how it goes. Well, you can drive once you're in the car and back home
Oh
safely.
yeah, yeah.
Well, you take care of yourself, and thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, you're welcome.